it. Okay. Welcome, y'all. This is the SMP 2024 Dream Business and Ideal Client Workshop. We know that because that's what it says on my refrigerator, and my refrigerator knows everything. It's very wise. And I'm Elise Bennett, for those of you who don't remember who I am. And I am joined today by Lisa Mullis, an excellent colleague of mine and co-teacher in the Get Ready for Opportunity Business Incubator that I run for the AWAI group. So Lisa, before we get anywhere, why don't you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hello everybody. It's so good to see a lot of familiar faces and names, and I'm thrilled to be here. And yeah, and as Elise said, I have to give my elevator pitch because she makes everybody do that. So mine is I'm a brand messaging specialist, and I work with coaches and consultants and creative professionals to help them look, sound, and sell like the high value experts that they are, so that they can work with better clients and have more time in for their lives and take home more money.
Awesome. Lots of benefits there and a little bit of alliteration. I love that. And Lisa has a perspective that complements mine really well. And so we're going to co-lead this workshop. It's in two parts. Our agenda is basically we have a little under 2 hours. We're going to have a 10-minute break somewhere in the middle. We're going to do some breakouts, probably one set of breakouts. We're going to have a lot of activity in the chat, as I said, and then we're going to ask someone to volunteer to be on the hot seat. And we'll tell you more about that as we get closer. But I just want to kind of lay a foundation and manage expectations properly by telling you that this is actually probably a full 1 day or 2 day workshop that we've compressed into 2 hours. So essentially what it is a taste of a workshop. And you're going to get a taste of a couple, two actually, ways of thinking about one, your dream client, I'm sorry, your dream business and your ideal client. And we want to just give you a little nudge to keep going and keep working on these ideas and this material. So it might feel a little overwhelming. I don't expect anyone to get anything necessarily, although I will ask you for your takeaways at the end. But just kind of let it sink in. You've got a whole year to work on this. You've got the playbook. And actually, Lisa, if you wouldn't mind, can you put the link for the playbook in the chat in case some people don't have it handy or somehow missed it? But we are working from this playbook, which I will share on my screen momentarily. But essentially, this is a taste of a few ideas that we expect you to keep working on beyond today. So actually, let me share my screen and we will start with the playbook because I'm going to ask you to share one of your accomplishments in 2023. So you should be able to see my screen. This is the playbook, and here you can see the outline for what's in here. And some people always ask, how do you get to that? Right there, that little hamburger, you just click on it and it gives you the outline, which are bookmarks to different parts of the document. And we asked you to do some prep or pre-work. So hopefully you had a chance to read this and watch the video about the 3 phases of your creative business, which we will talk about shortly also. But we also asked you to reflect on your accomplishments in 2023. So let's take a moment now. If you can share one of your accomplishments in the chat, please. So something that you wrote down there, or maybe you didn't write it down, but just something that you put there. Actually, I'm going to stop sharing so I can see the chat. Lots of launching of things and building frameworks and getting response from people and new websites and starting the business. Awesome. Lisa, you tell me what you see there also.
Uh, yeah, going to boot camp,
We were at boot camp.
lots of clients.
Mhm.
Getting a website up. And I think I saw some LinkedIn profile updates as
Mhm.
well, or getting those started.
So it looks like actually everything from making a big decision to go out on your own or rebrand or change something to the actual implementation and logistics of getting clients or launching a new thing or getting the website finished or making some changes on your profile. And those all count definitely as accomplishments. And then I want you to also please share one of your insights. Actually, let me share my screen and I'll show you where this is on the document also. Right, so I scrolled down a little bit to page 2 and we asked you a bunch of questions about your insights. So share just one of those as well in the chat if you would. Networking is everything. I agree with you about that, Michael, for sure. A complaint you made as a customer led to a client. That's interesting, Lisa. Give clients what they want, not what you think is best for them. It really is a balance of those two things, but you're not going to get anywhere if you don't give them what they think they want. And then maybe like giving spinach to children, I've heard, right? You can kind of sneak it in there, what they actually need.
I saw one too that's similar, which is taking advice from people, but then also listening to yourself, which I
Yes,
find is a balance to strike.
totally. More confident, treating yourself like a client. Yes, taking yourself very seriously. So we will be sharing this chat afterwards, and you can also save it by clicking on those 3 dots at the end. But I think it's worth reading because it can be very motivating as well, although it's hard to read and listen and talk and everything at the same time. But I love having this because I do actually go back and reread it at the end of the day, just so I make sure. So if you want to say anything to me, go ahead and put it in the chat. I will see it later. And if you have a question, actually, that's a good place to put it. If we can't answer it today, I will follow up with an answer. So, all right, let me just share some big ideas here before we get to the specific, practical part, because I like to balance it. And I actually want to start with a poem by reading you a poem, which is also, actually, let me share my screen again. So if you see, you should have this resources section at the very bottom of the outline, which is at the very bottom of the document, which is where some of the things I'll be referring to can be found. And the first is this poem that some of you perhaps have heard me read before, but I just love it so much as a way to start the year and as a way to start an effort. It's called Everything is Waiting for You by David White, and I'm going to read it out loud. Although I don't have his Irish lilt, you can just imagine it. But he says, your great mistake is to act the drama as if you were alone. And I like this line because so many people feel so alone and isolated as a self-employed person. And that's one of the things we're really trying to change here. Your great mistake is to act the drama as if you were alone, as if life were a progressive and cunning crime with no witness to the tiny hidden transgressions. To feel abandoned is to deny the intimacy of your surroundings. That includes my refrigerator. Surely even you at times have felt the grand array, the swelling presence, and the chorus crowding out your solo voice. You must note the way the soap dish enables you or the window latch grants you freedom. Alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. I love that line. Alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. You have to stay alert, even when you think you know somebody or something. The stairs are your mentor of things to come. That's my favorite line, actually. The stairs are your mentor of things to come. The doors have always been there to frighten you and invite you. And the tiny speaker in the phone is your dream ladder to divinity. Put down the weight of your aloneness and ease into the conversation. The kettle is singing even as it pours you a drink. The cooking pots have left their arrogant aloofness and seen the good in you at last. All the birds and creatures of the world are unutterably themselves. Everything is waiting for you. I just love this poem because for the first, let's just say 55 years of my life, I said no to everything, almost everything. No, that's not for me. No, I don't like it. And when I moved to Savannah, when I relocated, and I think that's relevant, the shift in location allowed me to become someone else, to become different, to transform myself. And I started to see that everything is out there waiting for me, actually. And then I realized why I had been saying no to everything before that. And that is because it's actually very hard to decide what to say yes to. And so that's one of the things I want us to focus on this year also in your business is where you place your attention and what you say yes to and what you say no to as well, because that really is going to lay the groundwork for yourself, your mind, and your business. And so I want to share another quote from David Brooks. His book, his most recent book is called How to Know a Person. And he quotes Ian McGilchrist, who is a neuroscientist and a psychiatrist. And he says, the quality of your life depends quite a bit on the quality of the attention that you project out into the world. Lisa will put that into the chat, and it's also in the resources section for you, as well as a link to the book. I love this idea that the quality of your life depends a bit, quite a bit, on the quality of the attention that you project out into the world. So where we put our attention and how we put that attention. And then James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, says the information you consume each day is the soil from which your future thoughts are grown. So we talk a lot about what we don't have control over, but there's a lot we do have control over that we don't take control over, and that includes our attention and what we consume idea-wise. And so I just want to put a spotlight and a foundation on that first. And so ask you, connecting it back to marketing, you have to have the right attitude. I talk a lot about mindset, the right attitude to believe that there are good clients out there waiting for you, that everything out there is waiting for you. So my question, and we'll put this in the chat and you can answer if you want in the chat, you don't have to, just to think about is, do you believe that there are good clients out there waiting for you? Or do you imagine that no one will ever hire you, or they're all going to be those really bad clients who don't want to pay you or rush you on everything? Just take a moment to reflect on it, answer it if you want in the chat, or just think about, actually, this is a question that has a right and wrong answer, in my opinion.
I like seeing some of these declarative statements here.
Mhm.
People would love to work with me.
Awesome. Right? And because a lot of these things are self-fulfilling prophecies, undergirded by marketing, I will say, right? It's not, that doesn't just happen. And actually, that's a good segue to the next idea, which is that we are going to dream today, but without fantasizing. And I'll make that distinction for you. Because I see a lot of people fantasizing, which is basically imagining for the sake of imagining, for entertainment purposes, without the intention of doing what it takes to make the dream real. Most people do this. I call them dreamers. Because these dreams are very unrealistic. And if you don't know that, right? If you think that this dream, especially because some marketer is trying to sell you something that says this dream is possible, but if you don't know that you're going to have to work hard, there's a lot you're going to have to do to actually get there, if it's even possible, then you end up feeling very discouraged. And I see a lot of that. And I think there's an alternative, and that's what we're trying to focus on today and kind of lay a foundation for today, which is that there's this other kind of dreaming, which is not fantasizing, but it's imagining that something that could be real, right? and connecting it to what you value and connecting it to concrete images of what it would look like if it were real and what it would take to make it real. And that's the kind of dreaming that we're going to do today. And we're going to focus really specifically on your ideal day, because your days, right? Your life is made up of your days. And so I really think, and this has been my experience, is that if you can get clear on what your ideal day could be and how close you are to it and what it would take to, what you would have to change basically to get you there to your ideal day. And it could be a month from now, it could be 5 years from now. We don't know. They could be a lot of work to get there, but we want you to think about, and this is what the exercise is going to be, think about what is your ideal day. And I'll just tell you actually that when I have my ideal day, because they do happen from time to time lately, I put it on my calendar in red. This was a perfect day, so that I can go back and say, how can I recreate this type of day? How much time there was between things. For me, that's usually what it is, how much time there is between things. I'm just going to pause. I have one more idea I want to share, but I'm going to pause, Lisa, if there's anything you want to say or anything in the chat we should attend to.
I really love the idea of marking down on your calendar an ideal day. I'm gonna start doing that. That's great because and I think this feeds into a shared philosophy you and I have about just celebrating the progress and the baby steps and the small wins. And I mean, honestly, I think having an ideal day is a big win, but just we collectively, I think, as entrepreneurs don't spend enough time acknowledging the progress and the steps and the wins. So I love that.
Yeah. And one of the things I do is once I've got like 5 ideal days, I go back and I look at what is the common denominator here, right? I could even ask ChatGPT if I wanted to, right? What do all these days have in common? All right, one more idea is I really think we have to find the balance in our businesses between what we want. That's what we're going to ask you to dream about without fantasizing. But we hardly ever get what we want, right? I mean, that's the reality of life. And what I find is most people are so focused on what they want and the fact that it's not happening that they don't see the opportunities that present themselves that could take them either in that direction or in a completely different direction that might be actually even better than what they thought they wanted. And so there is this delicate balance between what I'm calling the serendipity of opportunities that present themselves, which I often talk about as listening to the market, right? I've got one ear open. Oh, no, it's this one ear open, listening to the market, and the intentions that you have about where you want to take your business. Because your dream business actually has a lot to do with who you want to help, the actual people that you want to work with. If you're offering services and if you're here, that's probably one of the things you're offering, some kind of service that is related to you and what you do and what your skills are and what your talents are and who you are. And it has to do with people, affecting people, impacting people, and who you want to help. And I find that when we frame it as who do you want to help, as opposed to who is your market, it's easier to think of actual people or companies or organizations or types of entities that are made up of these people. And when you are clear on who the people are, then what you know is you need to learn about their pain points and their aspirations and their needs and their challenges, which means that your attention needs to be equally on yourself and on the market. And actually, I have a little example that just came from something yesterday. I was talking with a client about a form on her website where she asked people how they heard about her. And one of the options was she wrote her mailing list. I know about you because I'm on your mailing list. I said, no, it's your newsletter, right? They know it from the newsletter perspective. They get your newsletter For you, it's your mailing list. For them, it's your newsletter, right? It's tiny little perspective changes like that that mean you basically have to think from and through your prospects and your clients' eyes. And this is really, really hard to do. And even when you've got it, we kind of default to thinking through our own eyes and perspectives. So this is something I hope to be talking about throughout the course of the year. But that's one of the really important things to understand about this delicate balance between the opportunities that present themselves and the people seeing through their eyes. What are they asking for, as opposed to, no, this is what I want. I don't know, Lisa, feel free to comment on that.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the fact that you're here today and giving yourself this time to think
Mhm.
about who is it that I want to help and what does my ideal day look like and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, that's what allows you to have some clarity and groundedness as you're moving forward in your days, because there are so many opportunities that come up and lots of distractions, and trying to find that balance between like seizing the opportunity but also staying on a path that feels in alignment to you is easier when you allow yourself this kind of time and this kind of and an opportunity to really think and get grounded. So
Exactly.
it's just really great you're all here.
All right, so let's see if there are any questions about these ideas before we move on to the first exercise. And put your question in the chat, or yeah, that's really the best way at this point. But if not, we're going to keep going. Tell me if you see anything there while I sip my tea. I see people telling us who they want to help. That's good. And giving us the description of your ideal day. And we are going to ask you to, in great detail, tell us what the ideal day is. Not actually, and do it for yourself and then tell us. So keep that in mind, right? I saw someone said, no work is my ideal day. Great. So what is it filled with, right? What are the hours filled with? What are the minutes filled with? We want to concretely imagine that, because that's what, according to neuroscientists, will help make it possible. And then you've got to do the work to get there. All right. So we are moving on to part one then. So let me share my screen again. All right, so here we are on the document, and I can see there are a bunch of people on the document. You don't have to be, but you can. And you should also have downloaded your own to use and write your own answers to. That's what this line here is. Go to File, make a copy, and download it. All right, so actually okay, so we want to talk first. I'll go down here to this section, part one. We're going to talk about who you are. And again, the poem is linked there. And the exercise will be here. But first, we're going to go back up to the 3 phases of your business. And Lisa, if you haven't already, go ahead and get the poll ready for the 3 phases of your business. We're going to take a poll because I think what I've noticed actually is that no matter where you are, there are different connections to your marketing and to your pricing. And I wrote this and did a little video about it a couple of years ago. And so I want to know where each of you are in the 3 phases of your creative business. So if you didn't read this yet or watch it, I'm just going to go over it briefly. So phase 1 is when you're just getting started. And that could be, a 5-year process or phase. It could be a 1-year process. It could be 2 months. But I call it guessing with your fingers crossed, because you're just guessing at things, and that's fine, even though it doesn't feel all that comfortable usually, and you have no idea what your niche is yet or who you want to help. You're feeling very much all over the place, and your marketing is inconsistent, and you're trying all different things, and there's more famine than feast. And if that's you, the thing I want you to know is that that is normal, and it takes time to get out of it and time actually doing the marketing. And you might be saying to yourself, will this ever work? That's phase one. And actually, I was talking to someone this morning who just rebranded. She's been in business for several years. She just rebranded, and she said, "I feel like I'm in phase one all over again." So it's possible to go back to phase one, even if you've been out of it. Phase two is when you're kind of settling in and you're finding your place. And in terms of your niche, you're getting a vague sense of who your people are and what they can afford, and your marketing is getting more consistent, and you're basically saying to yourself, things are starting to make sense. This could work. And actually another client last week said, he said, I feel like I'm starting to get a glimpse of this thing right above me that I could aim for, that I could access, and I don't know what it is, and I want to get there. And I was like, be patient, right? Slow it down, because it is there and you will get there. But I often feel people are impatient to get there, and there really is no rushing it, in my opinion. So that's phase two. And then phase three is what I call strategic guessing. And some people don't like that I call this guessing too, but truthfully, and this is the phase I am in, I'm doing a lot of guessing, right? A lot of experimentation, a lot of let's see how far this can go, right? I know exactly who my people are. I'm the go-to resource. My pipeline is full. I'm very selective about who I say yes to. I know what I do. I know what I don't do. It's a wonderful place to be, and I can afford to play. I can afford to push. I can afford to guess. And that's one of the things I love about it. So, Lisa, before we do the poll, why don't you respond to any of that, or maybe tell us where you are in your process? Because I know you've recently rebranded.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in phase three right now, but I've definitely cycled through the phases for
Mhm.
sure. And I'm in my second business right now, so I've definitely cycled through all the phases. And yeah, there's I think that's totally normal and to be expected that you're gonna go through these phases. So yeah.
So, let's do it this way. If you have a sense of what phase you're in, go ahead and put that in the chat right now. And, it might be between one and two or between two and three. Some people don't like that they're only three. And then we're going to take a poll. And it's interesting because, I mean, clearly we have people across the spectrum here, all across the spectrum, which is I like, because that way you can learn from each other, because we don't have all the answers, but together we do. All right. Lisa, why don't you go ahead and launch the poll? Excellent. So go ahead and take the poll. If you're not in any of those three and you prefer other, go ahead and put that in the chat as well. What
Looks like we
percent?
have we have a few more folks
All right.
casting their votes, so
And
we're at
maybe
about
they're
80%.
driving and can't take the poll or
Could
something.
be right.
Then share the results and we'll see.
Yeah, I was just also thinking that you might feel like you're in between phases or in more than one phase, especially if maybe you're working with different audiences or you have different product lines in your business or things like that. That can definitely um, feel like that.
All right, I can't see it yet.
Okay.
You have to share those.
It looks like about everybody who It looks like we've got pretty much everybody in here.
Okay, go
Can
ahead
you
and
see?
close it
Do I need
then.
to end the poll?
You need to end
Okay.
it and then share the results.
Okay, here we go.
There we go. All right, so we've got 43% in phase one, guessing with fingers crossed, 29% settling in phase two, 14% in phase three, strategic guessing, and 14% in other. That's interesting and not surprising. I think that makes sense. So actually, I'm just gonna take a picture of that. Awesome. All right. So, Lisa, I am going to hand it over to you to talk a little bit more about these stages and then lead into the exercise. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. And I was thinking maybe I should hand off
The hosting? Yeah,
the hosting. Yeah.
I'll be the host
Bear
now.
with me, everybody. I'm in my temporary office right now, so no, all my stuff's a little just
No problem.
in different places.
No problem.
So let's see. Okay.
I'm the host now. Awesome.
Should be good. Yeah. Yeah, so we talked about like just cycling through those stages, which is very normal, especially as you're in business for a longer period of time. And I think the other thing to think about as you're moving through the stages is just how much space you're creating for yourself um, to do the revenue generating activities like the marketing, like the networking, doing the follow up, all of that kind of stuff. So allowing yourself the space to do that, and also just the idea of creating the space in your business to have those ideal clients come in, because sometimes what can happen, and I've certainly been at this place over the years where you're so full of, you get to a point where you're just at capacity with your work, but maybe the work isn't the ideal work. Maybe not all of it is ideal work or with ideal clients. And if you don't have the space available for those ideal clients to come in, that can be difficult, right? That can be a challenge. So again, I feel like the theme that's emerging today is this idea of balance. And so trying to find a balance between serving the clients that you have and bringing those people in and creating the space, allowing the space to be there for those ideal clients to come in as well. And that happens throughout all the stages that you're in. Okay, so I think the other thing we want to do is to kind of set up for our first activity, our first writing activity, which is we're going to be writing about your ideal day, like imagining what your ideal day is. And as Elise was talking through this distinction between dreaming and fantasizing, even just like the dreaming and feeling grounded in that can be difficult if we're just so in our heads and kind of in the energy of like, I mean, some of you may have already been well into your day by the time you showed up here and just like all the stuff that's going on. So I just want to take a few minutes to lead you all through a guided visualization to help you just kind of relax into the moment right now that you're here, so that you can allow your mind, your heart, your energetic body to kind of open up to really, it's kind of to open up to what you already know inside, but sometimes gets buried underneath all of the shoulds and coulds and woulds that are going on throughout our days. So what I'd like for you to do is I invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable closing your eyes. And if you would prefer to just turn your camera off, you can do that as well. But I want to just have you close your eyes and just feel, if you're standing, feel yourself grounded in your feet. If you're sitting in a chair or laying back somewhere, just feel your body grounded in the position that it's in. And I want you just to take note of what you're feeling. What kind of emotions are sitting in front of you right now? And what are you hearing around you besides my voice? What else are you hearing in the room? And maybe even take note of the temperature. And as you're observing what's around you, I invite you to just take some deep breaths. And as you're pulling the breath up through the bottom of your feet or however you're positioned, follow that breath all the way up on the inhale. And allow that breath to just release from the top of your head. And I want you to imagine as you're taking those breaths, and just allow yourself to breathe naturally, to imagine that you are rising from the position that you're in right now and you're stepping forward into tomorrow. And take a moment to observe, what does tomorrow look like? What kinds of things are you doing? Who are the people around you? What are the things that you're thinking about and feeling? And then I want you to imagine stepping forward even farther. Now we're moving into the tomorrows laid out in front of you. And imagine what that could look like. What are you seeing as you look at the stretch of the year in front of you? And as you're moving forward, I want you to imagine the things that you feel like you should be doing, that you could be doing, all of the needs, all of the what ifs. Imagine that those are chains that are starting to fall off as you're walking forward, as you're walking into this expanse of the year that's in front of you, whatever that might look like. They're just one by one falling off. You're letting go of the pressures, the expectations. You're allowing space to come forth. You're allowing for the whispering wisdom within to speak louder. And as your tomorrows become weeks and weeks become months, and we move into a place where we're now a year from this point in time. So we're now on January 17th, 2025. I want you to look at, what does your day look like January 17th, 2025? What did the days look like? What is your ideal day at this point in time? What are the things that you're doing? Who are the people that are around you? What are you feeling? And just take a moment to allow whatever is coming up for you to be. And then I would like for you to take another deep breath, maybe 2 deep breaths, 3 deep breaths. Just kind of allow what's come forth for you to just kind of sink back in to the present. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. If you want to turn back on your camera, that's fine. And then we're going to move into this exercise of your ideal day. So without too much more interruption between what's come up for you as we walk through this guided exercise into this writing period, we're going to take 10 minutes to capture what's come forth for you for your ideal day.
And
So
I'm just going to share the screen. So in case people aren't sure exactly where it is on the document, right here, clicking on that, imagine your ideal day, right? And this is where you can write it on your document.
and if you prefer to free write,
Mhm.
that's great too. It's all good. So we're going to do 10 minutes.
I'm going to put my timer on. And then we're going to do a breakout session that follows right after that. And then we're going to take a break, just so you know what's coming, right? And you'll have a chance to
Yeah.
talk about what you wrote. All right. Anything else you want to add, Lisa?
No.
All right, here we go. 10 minutes. We're about halfway through, and if for some reason you're done with your day, then think or write about what you would need to change in order to get there. Literally, what you can do. All right, one more minute, and then we're going to go right into breakouts for 10 minutes, and then we're taking a break. If you have to leave, of course, we understand. Don't worry about it. Be nice to yourself. Do what you can.
Sure.
All right. The timer says time's up. And so, Lisa, I'm thinking we're just going to open the breakout rooms. I'll tell you the prompt. It's based on what you just did. Basically, we want you to talk about what obstacle you can commit to overcoming that will get in the way of you doing your ideal day. And what would you need to do to make your ideal day happen? We're going to put that in the chat and then we will send it to you also once you're in your breakout rooms. These are going to be mostly pairs. But as usual, if you find yourself alone, just stay put, and I promise I will move someone into your room with you, or you may get yanked into someone else's room. All right, so if you need to leave, now would be a good time to do it. Otherwise, I'm going to pause the recording. All right, so welcome back, y'all, from our break. And people are putting in the chat a description of their ideal day just to see how they differ and what people are interested in. So keep doing that and reading that. And we are going to move on to your markets and who you want to help, your ideal client. But first, actually, I'm going to share my screen because I noticed that people are sharing contact information in the chat so that they can continue the conversation that started in the breakouts. Hold on, my watch is telling me something. And that's exactly what we have the SMP phone book for. So actually, first, raise your hand, your real hand or your electronic hand. And sometimes if you do that, it will raise your hand itself. Um, if you have already submitted your form for the phone book, which I'm going to show you momentarily. We have about 125 people, I think, so far in the phone book, which is about a third of what could be there. So if you don't know about that, great, thank you. You can take your hands down. I'm just going to show it. All right. Uh, all right, let me share my screen. I'm going to lower my hand. Okay, so this onboarding document, which was from the onboarding session, so I'm going to put that in the chat in case you didn't have it or lost track of it, because this is where all the important links are. So that's in the chat. On here, we have the phone book. This is the SMP phone book, and this is where you fill out the form. So if you haven't filled out the form, that's where you do it. And I just want to show you the phone book because it is very cool. The SMP phone book, the best part of the Simplest Marketing Plan is our people. And here it is. Basically, you can search, you can just put a word in there. You can put like food. Let's see who comes up with food. Lisa comes up, brand and packaging designer for all things food, right? Or you can do a name, maybe someone named Leslie. We have lots of Leslies, but only one of them has submitted her form yet, right? So you can search that way, or you can search by country or by state or by service or by tier, SMP or SMP plus, or by focus mate, those of you who may or may not have already started working with focus mate. And this is what each of them looks like. So that's a way to connect, right? That's why we're doing this, is so to make it easy for you to connect after something like this. So I encourage everyone first to get themselves in there by filling out that really simple form. All right. Yes, Deb says it also helps for folks to have first and last names on Zoom, which makes it easier to find you in the phone book. I agree with that. So you can change your name. All right, so now we're moving on to talk about who you want to help, basically, during those days where you're going to be working. And let me share my screen again and show you where we are in the playbook. So here's the playbook. There's part one, and now we're going to part two, and we're going to focus on your ideal client criteria. And you'll have some time to work on that. And Lisa's going to go over it, but I just want to tee it up with some ideas about how to think about who you want to help, because especially if you're one of these 43% in phase one, you may not be clear yet on who your market is and who you want to help. And what I want to say is that it's not a declaration that I want anyone to make at this point, especially. Who you help, your niche, your target market, however you think about it, whatever the word is that you use, it's an evolution. And one person from the last one that we did basically said, if I choose one of these niches, then how do I know it's right? And I have to change all my branding and change my website and change my LinkedIn profile before I go out there with it. And I said, no, actually, it's an evolution. And the way that you know who your people are is because you start putting things out, you start talking about it, you start going to places online and off where these people are and start telling them how you can help and see how they respond. And if you start to get good feedback, oh yeah, that sounds interesting. Oh yeah, I really need to do that. And they have money to pay for it because sometimes they know they need it, but they have no money to pay. So it all happens in the conversations. And that's why I've been emphasizing so far this month engaging with people, because it's all in the conversations that you get the information that you can listen to the market. So I'm not expecting anyone to come out of this with a big light bulb of, oh, now I know who my people are. Tomorrow I'm going to change everything and then I'm going to go out there. No, we have the whole year. Sometimes it takes a year, sometimes it takes more, but we want to start by thinking about who are the people and developing criteria so that when we come across them, we recognize them. And when we come across people who don't fit the criteria, we can necessarily ignore them, but move on and look for better. So hopefully, Lisa, that tees you up to explain the exercise, the next exercise. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I just want to say too that I feel like for sure this is one of the most important things you can do in your business is continue to explore and understand who your ideal client is. But what I think is really, I guess what I have found in my experience with it is that you start to learn more about yourself as you continue to have these conversations and the interactions with people, and the more you just go down this journey, and like Elise was saying, it's an evolution. um you do. I feel like you learn more aspects about yourself, like what your preferences are. And that's really the place where we want to start with this next exercise, is like just starting from within. And I'm thinking about it too, just like kind of reading through what you all are posting for your ideal day, because that's starting kind of from within. And what I think about a lot with that is like, how are you feeling? Like you do the things in your ideal day because it brings about a feeling. You're going after a feeling that you want. And I think in a lot of respects that's true for the ideal client. The ideal client is ideal for you because there's some feeling around what that's like to work with those people. So what we're going to do, let me get my document over on this screen and I'll screen share. So as Elise pointed out, it's part 2 in the playbook, and we're going to start with your preferences. So again, thinking about like what really lights you up. Who do you most enjoy working with? And then also just think back to like who seems to be drawn to you often. If especially people who might be coming to you asking you for help for different things, like who is that? And thinking about like what are the characteristics of that person? Um, and what are the things, for those of you who are already working with ideal clients, like what are the things that make them ideal for you? What is it? Is it a personality thing? Is it a shared values kind of thing? Like what is it? And then related to that is like, what's the ideal project that your favorite client would bring to you? What does that look like? That can also kind of help. Sometimes easier to start. You don't have to work through these questions from top to bottom. Sometimes you need to start somewhere in the middle. So if it's not coming to you right away, one of these, start somewhere in the middle, start at the end, and work your way back up. Similarly, the thinking about what would not make your ideal client, like that can also be a useful place to start if you're just like, I don't really know, but you may have a better sense of what doesn't make for your ideal client. So that's this first part to it. And then the second part is what you can see from the outside without having any interaction with them yet. What can you observe? Like maybe looking at their website or their LinkedIn profile, or maybe you see them at a speaking gig, maybe they're a speaker, or maybe they're, you see them at some kind of a networking event. So these are things that can often be sometimes more tangible, like the demographics piece. But you can usually pick up things like the things that they value, maybe the brand personality, causes they might be associated with. You can also often tell maybe what stage of business they're in. Is it a startup? Is it a mature business? Is it somebody, if you're working directly with people on a personal level, is it, somebody that's really new in this situation, or is it somebody that's, been very seasoned in that? And then thinking about what they might need from you. So and we have some examples here to help prompt you with those questions. The third category here is what you can only know once you start interacting with them. So again, you observe what you can from the outside looking in, and then once you start to have some kind of interaction, and that could be an exchange on LinkedIn. Even within the comments, it could be something like that. It could be obviously having a conversation, having a call or something like that. So this is getting at like, what are their tastes and sensibilities, maybe even what they can spend. So there might be some clues as to, on the money side of things, that start to come through when you're having those initial interactions. And then this fourth category here we have is when you're meeting with them, what to look for. And this is kind of a bit of a checklist. It's not an exhaustive checklist because there's, you may have some other things that you're looking for, like what is your own criteria? You could certainly add this in here. But we've just given you some prompts to think about things like how they show up physically, energetically, how they show up. Are they on time? Are they respectful? Are they honoring your boundaries that you've set and all that kind of stuff? If you happen to be doing work that requires like maybe somebody to be technically savvy with things, maybe you're using certain types of software, or that's part of your workflow, then that might be criteria for you to be for your ideal client. And then certainly like how they talk about money, is price the first thing to ask you about when you're having the money conversation? What is that like with them? And what do they tell you are their concerns and the things that they're looking for help with? So this is, again, just to get you started. And the last thing I want to just say too is that the ideal client exists everywhere in every industry. So when it goes, like thinking back to the niching comments that Elise made, it really doesn't matter. It's not like you are going to choose a niche to focus on and there's not going to be ideal clients there. They're everywhere. They're in the nonprofit world. They're in the NGO world. They're everywhere. So this exercise will help you just get a step closer towards identifying and being able to spot them in the wild.
And the fact that they're everywhere doesn't necessarily mean there are a lot of them. Usually it's the minority, and that's why you have to go look for them, is because the minority are the ones who value what you're offering and are willing to pay for it. So that's where the marketing comes in. So we're going to spend 10 minutes on this worksheet. Do as much as you can. There are lots of questions there. And keep in mind as you're going, if you want to, we're going to do a quick hot seat at the end. So if you think you want to be on the hot seat, just put hot seat in the chat, and we will choose someone. And I'm going to put the timer on. Any questions? Put your questions in the chat. I think it's pretty self-explanatory and it's really just thinking and writing. So here goes the timer. And you can mute yourself if you want. Otherwise, we will come back and do a hot seat in 10 minutes. All right, y'all. So I hope you got some good ideas down. And we're going to do a quick, like 5-minute hot seat. And I'm going to put Marlene on the hot seat. Partially because Marlene has done something called the SMP Diaries, which I will be sharing in the replay message also tomorrow. I can't wait for you to see that. So you'll learn a little bit more about her business. But Lisa and Marlene are going to have a little chat. So Marlene, unmute yourself and begin, if you would, by telling us where you are and your elevator pitch. And I'm going to put my timer on again.
I am in Orlando, Florida, and I am a content marketer that works mostly with people within the arts and entertainment industry. And I help them find their audience and then turn that audience into raving fans.
Awesome. All right. Lisa, go ahead and help. Let's help her.
Yeah. So, well, Marlene, I actually want to ask you, maybe it's a little bit of an unusual question, but for the benefit of others here that might not yet be working with their ideal clients,
Mhm.
where did you start? Like, how would you approach this trying to figure out the ideal client? Where did you start?
I started by looking back at the things that I enjoyed about my life before things got hard. I thought about those people I wanted to spend time with, and I realized that the times I felt most alive had to do with anything related to arts and entertainment. I have very artistic families. I am an artist, so I thought, well, why not work with them? Why not help them achieve that thing? Because I'm a helper, so why not do that?
Right. So tell me about like what are some red flags for you? Because I saw a few comments in the chat about people identifying with that approach.
Red flags I have found are one of the things is they immediately go to um, my rates and my hourlies. They um, are late to an appointment without giving any notice. So if we agree to meet up, they're not there when we agree to meet up, and they show up and they don't really say anything other than, "Oops, sorry." And they a lot of times I've noticed that um, they have a lot of big dreams, but they don't have any idea of a budget for what they want to achieve. And if they don't know what they want to spend or can spend, I know that I can't possibly, they'll have a lot of ideas, but we won't be in the same place as far as being able to make it work.
So what do you like? What are some of the things that you might say or questions you ask them to kind of steer them in a direction around the budget?
I usually ask them what it is that they're looking for. And sometimes mostly I'll just ask them flat out, do you have an ideal budget that you have selected for this? And if so, what is it? I use Elise's 500, 5,000, 50,000 question. So I'll say, okay, you're not sure. Are you looking at 500, 5,000, or 50,000? And usually they laugh. And a lot of them will go straight to 500. And that lets me know, okay, they're not working with a lot, or they want a lot but aren't planning on a lot. So I will let them know then around that time what kinds of projects can be done within that price range and try and see what it is that they are looking for, that I can then give them a proposal for. Or, sometimes you have to say, and I haven't had to do this very often, but I did have once to say, this is not the right time for you. It doesn't seem like it's the right time financially, but I'm here and I will gladly point you in the direction. And sometimes I just refer them to people that I know they can work with.
That's a great language to share for how to respond.
Uh-oh.
We lost
Did we
Lisa.
lose Lisa? Okay. All right. Well, I'll pick up. Because we just have a little bit longer with you on the hot seat, and then I want to begin to wrap up and have people kind of sharing takeaways. But one of the things that people are commenting also on in the chat is this idea of artists, right? Creative people. But I also know that you're focused on entertainment companies. So just talk a little bit about because of where you are locally in Orlando, the Orlando area, you've been looking for and finding entertainment companies.
Well, one of the things that, because I'm in Orlando, there are a lot of trade shows that happen around here. I also have connections with family members in other big cities that have trade shows and um, networking events. There are networking events in meetup.com that are specific for people that are launching companies, and or who have been in the industry for a while and they're just looking at the film commission, going to film events. I'm going to be going to the um, film festival in Florida coming up in April, and just being present and showing interest in all their stuff. Being like, hey.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be an official networking event for you to do networking at an event. And I really believe that almost anything can be a networking event. In fact, I had a client recently who attended a conference for her own personal interest and was so compartmentalized in her mind that she didn't think she could do networking there because she was there for personal reasons. So I'm always trying to kind of expand the way you think about wherever you are in the line at the supermarket or
Concert.
walking your dog or,
Yeah.
everywhere are opportunities for
I
networking for
find
sure.
that even commenting on a YouTube show, guys,
Mhm.
if you comment, you're networking because you're
Mhm.
commenting each other. I say this, I say this in the video. Please make sure that you comment each other and have good communication because
There's the video that I will be sharing with y'all.
because you would be surprised at how many connections you can make and relationship that you can build just by showing that you are interested and helping out each other.
And actually, all right, thank you, Marlene. I'm going to share my screen one more time to go back to this onboarding document because, hold on, there was a reason. Oh, yeah. The Smart Start Guide right here. In there is the quick LinkedIn commenting checklist, which is one way to get into some commenting. If you click right there, you'll find it. And this is a strategy for networking online. So there's a lot here. I'm encouraging everyone to think about the SMP as a smorgasbord. It's a lot of good stuff. You don't have to eat everything. You don't have to eat everything right away. You can take a little bit, see what you like, take a little bit of everything, try it, see what you like. But and this dream business workshop is just one of those things. And I hope that we've gotten you thinking about what you want your days to be like and who you want to work with. There's a little bit of homework. It's optional, of course. But one thing I'm suggesting is that you can use ChatGPT to ask who your ideal clients are, or what their pain points are, or what they need from someone like you. The suggestion, and I'll put this also in the follow-up message with the replay, is simply to give it you have to give it a PDF. I understand now. That's a new thing. It can't read links, but choose 3 people on LinkedIn or somewhere else, or maybe grab content from 3 websites and say, these are 3 companies or people who are my ideal client. Can you please give me the common denominators, or what do they have in common, or how can I find more like them? Right? That's a good exercise to do using AI. Okay, Lisa's going to come back just in time to say goodbye. But before we do that, and again, I will put that assignment in the email, so don't worry if you didn't grab what I just said. I'd love to see in the chat any takeaways or aha moments or something that you're leaving with today that you didn't have when you joined us 2 hours ago. So put that in the chat if you would. Lisa, are you back?
I'm back. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but we're having winter storms here,
Yes,
so
no
I think we
problem.
glitch in the system, glitch in
No
the matrix.
problem. It could have been planned that you just disappeared at that point and I picked up and continued the conversation. That's how smoothly this went.
Yeah.
But I'm asking people for their takeaways, so maybe you can share what people are writing, a little bit of what's there in the chat.
Yeah, more comfortable with the whole SMP process, courage to take the next step. Utilize the SMP more and more.
Because marketing works when you do it, y'all.
Yeah. Making the space for ideal clients. Ooh, got over the wall of resistance to explore ideal client questions.
That's a big deal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Feeling calmer and more confident.
Beautiful. All right, I'm also going to put in here our feedback link because we always want feedback to do this better. So if you have a moment and can give us feedback on how you felt this went, what worked and what didn't, please use that link. I'll put it in a couple times in case you don't grab it because there's stuff happening in the chat, but we really take feedback very seriously and make changes. That's how we know what changes to make. That's how we listen to the market, is by asking for feedback. So please feel free to give us feedback. And Lisa, do you have any last minute or final pieces of wisdom for the people?
You know, what came to mind earlier was, and because I know there are a number of writers here, I know not everybody here is a writer, but a lot of ideas and clarity come through writing, even if you're not writing as a profession. And so I think just again, like this is one of the reasons why we wanted to build in some of these exercises for you to write, because it really does help bring you forward. And I just read an interview yesterday by a longtime successful business woman, and the 2 pieces of advice she was asked, like, what are the 2 pieces of advice that you've carried with you through the years? And one of them was about taking the time each day to do a little bit of writing just to get clear on what she's feeling, and then also what the priorities are for the day, and to identify like the one thing to work on. And that really struck me because it's a simple practice. It's simple to say, it's harder to put into practice, and yet it's really important. So I just want to say thank you to all of you again who showed up today, and even those who are watching the replay and taking the time to do that, to work through these exercises. It's really, really important. And there are some additional questions in the playbook. So it might feel like, oh, if I have time, or it might feel a little kind of fluffy, but it's actually it is really important part of the of your success.
Yeah, taking time to work on our business, not just in the business, especially when you don't have a lot going on in the business, then your job is to work on the business. And that definitely includes marketing. You know that my suggestion is 30 minutes a day, first thing in the morning, if possible. And our next meeting will be the February 1st office hours. So I'm looking forward to that. In the meantime, I will be sharing with you the replay of this, the link to Marlene's SMP Diaries video, where she's basically walking us through what she's doing and how she's using the SMP. So she's got week 1 already in the can. She's working on week 2, and it's really fun and helpful. So thank you, Marlene, for doing that. Thank you, Lisa, for being here. Thanks, y'all, for showing up. And yeah, we will see you soon. Again, if you have questions or feedback, go ahead and put it in the chat or use this link. And I will be reading the chat and the feedback later on today.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks.